Have you ever thought that the biggest life changes often begin with the smallest habits? Not with grand turning points, not with perfect plans, but with a few simple things we quietly repeat each day with consistency. I used to not believe that. I thought change required something monumental, a bold act, a complete transformation. Until, one day, I realized I had been living too long in exhaustion, waking up to notifications, rushing through the day, and curling up at night in a mess of thoughts. Everything was still happening, but it no longer felt like living. So, I asked myself, what would happen if I tried to live differently? Not by changing my entire life, just by starting again with a few small habits. That week I tried waking up a bit earlier, writing a few lines at night, spending less time on my phone, and giving myself more space to breathe. At first I expected nothing, but in those quiet mornings and calm pauses throughout the day, I began to feel something unusual, a lightness, a clarity, and a sense of calm I hadn't known in years. I realized that real change doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from the small choices we dare to repeat. They don't just change how we live, they change how we see ourselves. If you're also looking for a fresh start, walk this journey with me. Because sometimes, the smallest changes are the beginning of something extraordinary. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end of this video. Because these habits aren't just words, they're small actions you can begin today. And this journey starts in the simplest place of all, the morning. Habit 1. Waking up early. I used to be the kind of person who always wanted 5 more minutes of sleep, though those 5 minutes were never just 5. Every morning felt like a race against time, jumping out of bed, brushing my teeth while checking my phone, then rushing out the door as if someone were chasing me from behind. I felt like I didn't even have enough time to breathe. The truth is, I never hated mornings, I just never gave them to myself. One day, after looking back at my chaotic routine, I asked myself, what if I woke up earlier? Just to breathe, to slow down for once. So the next morning, I set my alarm 30 minutes earlier than usual. My body was heavy, my mind still foggy, and that familiar thought, just 5 more minutes, came back again. But this time I didn't give in. I got up and stepped out onto the balcony. The air was cold and fresh, the city still asleep, and the first light of dawn gently brushed across the rooftops. In that moment, I felt an unfamiliar peace, as if the world had paused, just to let me exist. From that day on, I stopped waking up to chase the day. I woke up to begin it. I stretched, breathed deeply, sipped my tea, and sat in silence for a few minutes. No phone, no work, no pressure to do anything at all. Just me, in awareness. Waking up early didn't make me a perfect person, but it made me calmer, something I had long lost. I realized that waking up early isn't about having more time. It's about reclaiming the ownership of your mind. When you start your morning in silence, you enter the rest of your day with inner steadiness. So if you can, try it. Set your alarm 15 minutes earlier. Step outside and feel the first light touch your skin. You'll understand that morning isn't just the start of a new day. It's the beginning of a new state of mind. Habit 2. Daily exercise. I used to think exercise was only for people with free time, or for those chasing the perfect body. As for me, with a busy schedule and a mountain of tasks, I always found excuses to postpone it. I'm too tired today, I'll start tomorrow. I just don't have time to work out. And so, tomorrow kept turning into another tomorrow. Until one day I realized what I lacked wasn't time, it was energy. My body was weary, my mind heavy, and my mood constantly tangled. One morning, as I was walking downstairs, I saw a neighbor dressed in workout clothes, running shoes on, face glowing with energy. I watched them disappear around the corner and suddenly felt a longing for that kind of vitality. I asked myself, could I do that too? Would it really be that hard to give myself just 20 minutes a day to move? So I decided to begin. No gym, no fancy equipment, just a few stretches and a light jog around the neighborhood. The first day was awful. Every step felt like dragging my whole body forward, every breath so heavy I almost gave up. But then I thought, every beginning is difficult. Nothing will change if I keep stopping. So I kept going, slowly but steadily. And strangely, as my breathing found rhythm and sweat began to fall, I felt something shift. My body lighter, my mind clearer, my thoughts expanding. From those first runs, I learned something important. Physical training isn't just about building muscles. It's a lesson in willpower. Every time I wanted to stop, I met my limits and took one more step beyond them. In the days that followed, I kept the habit alive. Some days I practiced yoga, some days I took long walks, and on others, I simply spent a few minutes breathing deeply. And gradually I began to notice the change. My body stronger, my mood brighter, and the fatigue and irritability slowly fading away. I realized that the body is the home of the mind. When we care for it, we nurture the strength within. So try starting, just 20 minutes, because sometimes the small steps you take today become the foundation for a stronger version of yourself tomorrow. Habit 3. Journaling. I didn't start writing to be profound. I started because one evening I had no one to talk to. That day had been terrible. Endless work, a few harsh words that made me feel useless. I came home heavy-hearted, picked up my phone to message someone, then stopped. No one truly understands you better than you do. So I took an empty notebook, sat at my desk, and began to write. At first, the pen felt stiff. I didn't know what to say, so I wrote a few scattered lines. I'm tired today. I feel useless. I don't know if tomorrow will be any better. The handwriting was messy, not pretty, not poetic. But the more I wrote, the more the tangled thoughts in my head began to unwind. The chaos started to take shape, with form, with voice, with order. I realized that writing doesn't make problems disappear, but it helps me see them clearly. When I write, I can say things I'm not brave enough to say out loud. Maybe that was the first time I truly listened to myself, without judgment, without pretending to be okay. After that, I kept the habit, just 10 minutes each night. Some days I wrote about what happened, some days I listed 3 things I was grateful for, and some days I simply wrote down what was bothering me. And strangely, I began to feel lighter. The things that once made me angry now leave room for understanding. The worries that once felt like mountains shrank on paper, small enough for me to face them. Writing didn't make me perfect. It made me honest. I learned to recognize my emotions, to accept them, and to let them pass. Each page became a conversation between the person I am today and the person I'll become tomorrow. If you're searching for clarity in your mind, try writing. It doesn't have to be beautiful or correct. It just has to be true. You can write in the morning when your mind is clear to center yourself and set your intention for the day. Or write at night when the world grows quiet, to reflect, to give thanks, and to let go of what weighs on your heart. Because sometimes, the pen is the clearest mirror of the soul. Habit 4. Limiting screen time. There was a time when I practically lived in parallel with my phone. Every morning, the first thing I touched wasn't sunlight, it was the screen. I scrolled through social media, read the news, replied to a few messages, letting the outside world flood my mind before it even had a chance to be still. On those days, I didn't really wake up. I just logged into a new day. I realized this one evening. After work, I told myself I'd rest for 5 minutes. But when I finally looked up, almost an hour had passed. I was still sitting there, the light of my phone glowing on my face, my fingers scrolling mindlessly through hundreds of images and stories that had nothing to do with me. When I finally put my phone down, the room was utterly silent. All that remained was a strange emptiness, as if I had missed something real while drifting through a digital fog. That night, I decided to make a change, not to quit completely, but to limit. I set a simple rule. After 9 p.m., no phone, no TV, no news. At first, it felt unfamiliar. The room was so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock. But soon, I began to enjoy that silence. I read a few pages of a book, talked with my family, and felt the space around me come alive in a way it hadn't in a long time. In the following days, I kept the habit. I spent my free time making tea, writing a few lines, or simply sitting still and listening to music. I went to bed earlier, slept more deeply, and woke up feeling clearer, no longer weighed down by invisible noise. The less I stared at a screen, the more I felt present, in every breath, every conversation, every ordinary moment. Technology isn't the enemy. The problem is that we forget where the line is between using it and letting it use us. So try setting a boundary for yourself. Turn off your phone, step away from the screen, and return to the real world. You'll be surprised to realize the most precious things aren't inside your phone. They're in the moments when you're truly here. Habit 5. Nourish the mind. After I began waking up early and limiting technology, I noticed something strange. My mind felt empty. When the noise faded, silence appeared, and in that quiet, I began to see what I had overlooked for years. I had been feeding my mind endless information, but very little that truly nourished me. One morning, as I sat with my coffee, I picked up my phone out of habit to check the news, then stopped. I asked myself, will this make my mind better? The answer was no. So I set my phone down and opened an old book I had left unfinished. The pages were slightly yellowed, but as I read, each word seemed to clear the fog in my mind, leaving me calm and awake again, as if my thoughts were finally breathing after a long exhaustion. From that day on, I became more selective about what I allowed into my mind. Instead of scrolling through social media, I listened to a podcast on life philosophy. Instead of watching endless short videos, I spent time learning a small skill. The more I nourished my mind with meaningful things, the more I saw the difference. I spoke less, thought deeper, and reacted more calmly to the world around me. I realized that the mind is just like the body. If we keep feeding it junk food, gossip, news, arguments, it becomes restless and fatigued. But if we give it clean food, good ideas, useful knowledge, peaceful music, it becomes clearer and stronger. Now, I dedicate at least 30 minutes each day to nourishing my mind, whether through reading, writing, listening, or simply sitting in reflection. It doesn't have to be much, only consistent. You can start with something simple, a book, a song, or a meaningful conversation. Everything you feed your mind contributes to the person you will become tomorrow. So choose carefully, because in the end, you are what you feed yourself every day, in mind and in soul. And when your mind is well nourished, you don't just think differently. You become different, calmer, wiser, and freer in a world full of noise. Habit 6. Detachment from outcome. Focus on action. I used to be the kind of person who set expectations for everything I did. If I worked hard, I wanted to see results immediately. If I helped someone, I wanted to be acknowledged. And if I gave my best but didn't get what I hoped for, I felt disappointed, sometimes even questioning my own worth. Once, I spent weeks preparing for a project at work. I believed I had done well, but the outcome wasn't what I expected. The project was given to another team, and my efforts were almost entirely overlooked. That night, I lay staring at the ceiling, angry, hurt, and empty. I had done everything I could. So why didn't things go the way I wanted? But then, in the quiet, a thought came to me. Why did I do this in the first place? Was it for recognition or for the work itself? For the result or for the process I had poured my heart into? That question made me realize what hurt me wasn't failure itself, but the weight of my expectations. I had forgotten that not everything is within my control. There are things we can only plant. Whether they bloom or not isn't always up to us. From that day on, I began learning to detach from outcomes. I still worked hard, but I stopped tying my peace of mind to results. I wrote down goals only for direction, then focused entirely on the actions in front of me. And strangely, when I stopped forcing life to unfold my way, everything felt lighter. I no longer worried when things didn't go as planned, because I knew my worth wasn't defined by the outcome, but by how I showed up in the process. That feeling of freedom, calm, and quiet strength became a greater reward than any success. If you're tired from trying to control too much, try letting go a little. Do your best, then let life handle the rest. Because sometimes the outcome doesn't arrive to reward your effort. It arrives to test whether you can stay steady, no matter what. Habit 7. Live kindly. Some people chase beauty, others chase fame, and I, once upon a time, only chased recognition. I helped others, did good things, but deep down, there was always a quiet hope. To be praised, to be remembered, to hear someone say, "You're such a good person." Until one day, I met an old man in a small cafe. He walked in and saw a waitress drop a tray of drinks. Without hesitation, he quietly bent down to help her. No one noticed, no one thanked him, but he simply smiled, wiped his hands, and sat down, as if kindness was the most natural thing in the world. In that moment, I felt small. I realized there are people who do good not because they want to be seen, but because they can't help but do good. From that day on, I began learning to give in silence. No boasting, no telling, no waiting for acknowledgement. Sometimes it was just leaving a small thank you note on a tired coworker's desk, letting someone go ahead in line at the store, or quietly listening to a friend who needed to be heard without rushing to offer advice. Small, unseen things. But after each one, I felt lighter, as if I had removed a stone from my heart. And strangely, when I stopped expecting anything in return, life began to give back in its own gentle way, through a smile, a nod, or a quiet peace blooming inside. I realized that kindness is not something we give away. It's something that brings us back to the purest part of ourselves. Now, whenever I have a chance to help someone, I no longer think, will they appreciate it? I only think, what can I do to make life a little gentler? Because in the end, everything else we chase, fame, beauty, wealth, will fade with time. Only kindness endures, quiet, steady, and alive in the way we touch the lives of others. For living kindly is the most beautiful thing you can ever do. Because when everything else is gone, only kindness is remembered and remains forever in the hearts of others. We've just walked together through a journey of things that seem small, yet have the power to change the way we live each day. There are no miracles here, no shortcuts, just simple things. Waking up a little earlier, moving your body, writing, reading, turning off your phone, focusing on action, and choosing kindness. These small habits hold the quiet strength to transform the way we see life. I started this journey with a simple thought. Just try it for a week. But as the days passed, I realized the biggest change wasn't in the world around me, but within myself. I became calmer, listened more deeply, and learned how to be fully present in every moment. I came to understand that change doesn't come from grand turning points, but from living consciously in the smallest moments of each day. Every time you wake up early to greet the sunrise, every time you step outside instead of scrolling through your screen, every time you choose to read one meaningful page instead of another meaningless post, you are planting a seed of transformation within yourself. And with time, those seeds will grow, quietly shaping you into someone steadier, wiser, and more alive. No one can change your life but you, but sometimes all it takes is one small beginning, one better choice, one earlier morning, one kinder action. Those small things add up, day by day, hour by hour, until one day you'll look back and realize you've changed. Because in the end, life isn't defined by big milestones, but by the habits we repeat silently every day, the ones that seem small, yet can shift the entire direction of our lives. If this journey has touched something within you, leave a like, share your thoughts, or simply begin practicing one small habit today. And if you want to keep nurturing a calmer mind and a stronger spirit, subscribe and walk with us on this path. Because small habits can create big changes. And sometimes, the most beautiful thing isn't where you arrive, but the person you quietly become along the way.